Hello, and welcome to the Gifted in Real Life podcast, where we talk with individuals who have unique career interests and who were probably or may not. I mean, a lot of my guests are what's known as gifted learners in school, and those gifted learners grow up to be gifted adults. Thus, the name Gifted in Real Life. And so, I like to talk with individuals who have unique stories, whether it's a 9 to 5 that they turn out to find their passion with, or entrepreneurship. And today is no exception. We have July with us. And without further ado, I just want to jump right into it, July. If you wouldn't mind, just start by telling us who you are and what it is that you do.
Sure. Okay. So again, my name is July. I am a certified energy healing practitioner. And a lot of people have never heard of that and they ask what that is. The way I find it easiest to describe it to people is like Reiki. A lot of people have heard of Reiki, which is like healing, touchless, but almost like a massage where they're running their hands, over the body. There's also distance Reiki. And so it's very similar to that. So that's kind of like the base of it, the gist of it. I work with the chakras, or the 7 main energy centers of the body.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I am definitely familiar with Reiki. I've never done it, and I'm familiar with chakras, but I don't have a full understanding of it. Explain what chakras are.
Sure. So your chakras are your energy centers. We're nothing without our chakras. So you have the one that starts at the top of your head, which is the crown. That's the area where we as moms massage the baby's head to try to kind of close up that little area, right? That's an energy center just in that area. We have one near the pineal gland, right at the forehead. We have the throat chakra, the heart chakra. We have the solar plexus, the sacral chakra, and then the root chakra. So those, I just like to give examples.
Please, I'm fascinated. Please.
Okay. I feel that people learn easiest by way of pictures. So when you think of someone who is either infatuated or nervous or any number of things, they may describe it as butterflies in the stomach. Those are your chakras actually moving. And they work like little radios. There's like frequency that, comes out from your chakras. We communicate to each other by means of our chakras, and that's why we may feel something either in our stomach or in our heart. Sometimes even when we're talking to people, how sometimes someone may say something that can make you just kind of like swallow hard or have like a lump in your throat. That's the throat chakra. So we're familiar with these things, although we don't really recognize that we are.
Yeah, we sort of ignore them.
Exactly.
And don't think that they're anything.
That's right.
Wow.
So, but the fact of the matter is that when you really do truly know all about the chakras, you see how they affect almost everything in your life. They are the underlying thing that even affects you physically, because we know how stress is something that is so tangible that it can affect your health, your physical health. And so the chakras are something that have bearing on that. Again, with the butterflies in the stomach, right? So it's all connected.
Yeah. So who comes to see a Reiki healer?
I would say people who have experienced tension in different areas of their lives, especially when it comes to like work stress and even physical stress. I think that people who also get like physical massages are, people who would seek out a Reiki practitioner. They, from what I hear, because I've not done Reiki, but from the friends of mine who are Reiki practitioners, they help people just kind of like realign their lives by means of releasing some of the tension, the energy in the body that causes you to like stress up and tense up. So it's almost similar to, you know, that feeling you get when you stretch when you're working out and you release endorphins, or if you just stretch early in the morning upon rising. That's the feeling that we all chase. And that's the feeling that is sought after when you're seeking that type of practitioner, either a Reiki healer or even like myself, an energy healing practitioner.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how do what you do? How is what you do different from being a Reiki healer, and how is it similar?
So I would say it's similar because people can feel a lot of the physical difference. The other thing that I notice about Reiki healers and then energy healers is that with energy healing, you are helping people to not just release the energy and feel, you know, like the endorphin type feeling, but you are like healing the chakras. So sometimes our chakras, they can get a little, I like to compare everything to, you know, maintaining a car. You know, you have to stay calibrated. And to do so, it has a lot to do with things that are going on mentally and spiritually with us. In other words, there are things that we need to release that we may not be realizing that we're holding on to. I don't believe that they get as in depth with that in Reiki healing, but with energy healing practitioner, or as an energy healing practitioner, I talk to people in addition to doing the healing, the distance healing, about the things that I see when I am working on their chakras. I know that sounds weird, but there are like little movies that play. There's, how can I describe it? It's almost like Wi-Fi where there's the frequencies coming from their energy centers are sending messages to me when I've been given permission to look into the chakra system. And so I'm able to tell them where there are problems and what needs to happen, especially based off of their own experiences, their past, their background, or some of the things that they may be currently going through. All of those things are things that need to be, you've got to like reach in and let them know so that they can actually become cognizant of what's going on and how these things are affecting their literal energy centers. So yeah, it's
So I have a question. I have a question for you. So let's say you have a kid who is not sleeping at night because she's having like bad dreams or night terrors, and it's beyond the age of 5, like, you know, we're talking double digits. How would you work with that type of situation?
Okay, so first and foremost, as a disclaimer, with energy healing practitioner, as an energy healing practitioner, you always get the permission of the person that you're working with. So even though it would be a child, it would still be something that I would explain to them in a way that they can understand, and let them know that this is something I'd like to help them with. Do I have their permission? And so I would literally take, just do like a little meditation and connect spiritually with their energy centers, see what I'm finding. But just off the top of my head, when it comes to young ones, they're so raw when it comes to their gifts. They're not like adults who have, because of limiting beliefs and, you know, the way we've been raised, right?
Programming,
all those things of that nature. They have not been stripped of their abilities. And I'm not going to say adults have been stripped. We just have buried them.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yes. Yeah. So in working with a child, I would ask them to describe some of the things that they're seeing and let them know that because of their gifts are something that are to be actually, they're intended to be like a present. And so I would help them to understand something that was meant to be a present and learn how not to fear them. Because believe it or not, even though as children, they still have been programmed with fear. A lot of times we fear what we don't understand, right? Or we may have been influenced by things we see on television or even other kids talking about nightmares or monsters or things like that.
Yeah.
That's how I would approach it.
So how did you come to know that you had this gift?
So as it started off as a child myself, and I don't really remember having like, like the nightmares and terrors, but I did have dreams, very vivid dreams. And sometimes they weren't just when I was asleep. I had this unusual connection with God from a little child onward, where I would communicate with him. And even by means of my communication with him, it's weird to talk about. I hardly say these things in public, but even from my bedroom window, controlling the weather with him at a very young age, seeing things in plain sight that can only be described by means of, I don't know if you've heard the term of synesthesia.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, are you very familiar with it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
My children used to tell me what colors they would see when they played piano.
Yes.
They also used to give genders to letters
Yes,
and
exactly.
yeah, and numbers, yes.
That's exactly what it was for me. I've always had genders, colors, personality types for each letter and number, and they've remained constant through my life. But you can also, yeah, sometimes you'll see things moving to the beat of sound. So your senses have not completely separated from birth. So like babies, when they are startled, they do this because they're feeling the sound in their hands. And so as they grow older, those lines of communication in their nerves, they separate more into the 5 distinct senses. Some people's do not separate. And so children, one way that is indicative of the fact that they are probably a synesthete is when they are babies, they may be very colicky. And if not, when they start to, grow, you'll start to notice little things like when they first start school, they're very artistic, right? Or just little talents that show that they have extra gifts,
Yep.
a little bit more than average.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So later in life, well, because of the way I was raised in religion, a lot of things got suppressed. But I still knew that I would experience these things. And the number one thing was learning that I was an empath, also with mirror touch synesthesia. So it lets you know that, so mirror touch is very similar to like the mirror neurons communicating with another human. If they yawn and you see them yawn and then you yawn, that's like, mirroring them. As an empath, sometimes when I am speaking to someone and they're telling me the things that are going on with them physically, they begin to show up in my body. And we may not even need to be speaking. It can just be by means of me performing a session on them, the energy healing session. I'll start to feel things in my body. And I know that it's them. Also to emotions. if they're having certain emotions, they start to overwhelm me, the emotions. So
Wow.
you
Yeah.
never know about your children.
Say what now?
You never know about your children.
Well, yeah, I do know though. I
Yeah.
do know. Like I
Yeah.
know, I get what you're saying. And
Okay.
I do understand that there are a lot of people who won't understand it. And
Yeah.
like you, I don't talk about it either.
Yeah.
But like and again, I think that this stuff can be highly hereditary, even if your parents
Mhm.
never tell you. Like they may be your worst critic
Yeah.
because they are afraid or they don't want certain things to happen to you. So I understand that piece of it, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely an empath myself. I mean, I can think of this situation when I was in college. I
Yeah.
had this time,
Mhm.
this moment where I had 3 jobs and I was a full-time college student.
Okay.
And my body shut down one day. I literally got out in bed and I could not get out for 24 hours. I couldn't move. And one of the jobs that I had, I don't even know why I brought that up. That's not even related to what I was going to say, but maybe it is.
Mhm. Yeah.
My body was telling me something.
Mhm.
My body was telling me something because I've never shared this story. That happened to me. And the next day, my boyfriend at the time told me that he had been cheating on me.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was really profound for me,
Yeah.
really like life changing to this
Mhm.
day. Because of that experience, I made a decision for myself and I stuck to it to this day. I would
Okay.
never let that happen to me again.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I did. And I mean, my body was warning me something
Yeah.
was happening.
Mhm.
Something was happening. And then I had this situation where I had this job at McDonald's. And I
Okay.
remember talking to somebody that I was working with,
Mhm.
and they were telling me their sob story. And I was listening and I felt it.
Mhm.
And the person said, "Ooh, nobody never usually listens to me when I talk about this." And
Yeah.
I had an emotional, physical reaction to it.
Mhm.
And I remember it to this day. And that was over 20 years ago,
Yeah.
more than 20 years ago. So just stuff like that. I get it. I
Yeah.
understand.
That is amazing. You made me recall an experience I had when I was a teenager. A friend of mine confided in me. He was like just pouring out his heart about his love for a mutual friend of ours. And I felt it so deeply. And at the time, I didn't know how to handle it. And I winded up falling in love with him, you
Ah!
know? And as a teenager, it was like, so, you know, how you just got this whirlwind of feelings and all. But I'll never forget how it all started with me just having so much compassion for how he felt.
How did it go with that friend?
Well, I never even told him.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't even tell him. That was funny, but yeah. I realized after I got older that happens often with people, and I started to learn how to like better cope with my emotions and realize that, there were times where I would just become a hermit
mm.
and just
And
take
that
it.
was for like self-preservation?
It definitely was. Yeah. Well, back then, you remember we used to have the landlines and the phone jacks, and I would just unplug my jack for weeks at a time.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how did you, so in coming into this sort of information, like this revelation, how did it impact your religious beliefs? Because you mentioned that you came from a religious background. How did it impact your religious beliefs?
Heavily. Um, I was baptized from a young age in that religion at age 13. And after I started experiencing a lot of marital problems um, throughout my marriage. But at one point in how many years ago was so in the year 2018, well, really a little bit before then, I started praying heavily to ask God's will to be done in my behalf, whatever that means for me and my boys. And I just started coming into more and more of my gifts. And, eventually that's how I met, Alex, AJ, who you also did a interview with. And the things that I started to learn helped me to appreciate that my gifts were not bad as the religion made me think they were.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt ready to explore them, and it just felt right. Where you just have this inner conviction
Mm-hmm.
that
Yes.
something is right for you, especially after you've prayed, you realize now that you're being led.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I started to realize, what, the things that I'm learning and exploring about myself within is not, it would make me hypocritical as a practicer of the religion. So what I ended up doing was in the year 2021, I disassociated myself from the religion after 33 years of practicing.
Mm.
And I'm like, no, I don't want to be a hypocrite. And I'm ready to go out there and explore what I'm doing. But at that time I was like, and I still see it as such, but it's like, no, this is, the light workers type of thing. And, I want to help people. I've always been into encouraging people, strengthening people, building them up, and bringing out the best versions of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I realized that I couldn't do that and still practice my religion with a good conscience. And I just needed to just do what felt right for me.
And so how do you think that impacts your relationship with God?
Oh, that question so much. That question lights me up. So for me personally, it deepened my relationship with God. But because of the religion, I had to let go, believe it or not, of all my family and friends because they can no longer speak with me and they see it as just the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be able to really deeply appreciate who you are within and have strong faith. Again, when you have that inner conviction, it's one of those things where you just know. You can't tell anyone how you know, but you just know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was to say, what type of background does Juanica have there? And I'm like, well, there's like wood there, So it's not a doubt. It's just something that you're certain of. So that's how it feels when it comes to really stepping into your own love, your own power, your own strengths, your own gifts that God has bestowed upon you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a feeling I can't describe hardly that good.
I understand. And the
Yeah.
irony in it is that, some people may look at it as if you've changed or you've lost faith, but I think it can be the opposite because I think that religion is a hindrance for people when it comes to their relationship with God because it's sort of a buffer, it's an excuse.
Mhm.
It's a lot of things. You don't need that to have a relationship with God. You don't need that. And
Yeah.
so I don't think Jesus was religious.
Yeah.
I think people misunderstand a lot about who he is.
Mhm.
And I understand that. It's like people want to get caught up in the institution.
Yes.
And that's not what faith and God and being godlike is about. That's just not.
Mm, yeah.
So I want to shift gears for a little bit.
Okay.
So when did you learn that you could take this sort of talent and interest, something that's been like sort of a part of the fabric of your being,
Yeah.
and turn it into a career path, a
So
business?
yeah, the course that I was taking, he also offered something that was called I don't know if it was like passion to purpose or something similar to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was helping us to appreciate that because it's inborn in us, it's something innate anyway, where we want to help people. he said, go ahead and make a business out of it the way he had done. So he showed us, how to market ourselves, should that be the path that we chose? And just, use it in a way, not only did he show us marketing, but he taught us something even more, I think is just, invaluable. He said, you want to set the intention where you're speaking to, whatever, if it's God or, the universe, however a person looks at it. Set the intention, in my case, prayer, and meditation, where I speak to God and continue to ask him to continue to show me the path, this path that he's been showing me, and answer to my prayers, and show me ways that I can use these to support myself and my family and still be able to, help people out of just a genuine heart. So I came up with, God implanted in my mind to just kind of like reach out to people, let them know the things that I'm doing, not be rigid on prices. And, like lately I've been telling people that if they want to work with me, get in contact with me, because my prices are high, because I have a lot of, people who are interested in the work that I do, and they see
The demand is there. Yes.
Yeah, the demand is there. They see the value in it, and they pay.
Yeah.
It's not like on a certain level yet. It's getting there. It's growing. However, I love to help people so much that I would not want money to be a thing that deters them.
Okay.
Let's tell them to get in contact with me. We can work something out and still provide some sort of service where they will receive help.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as an entrepreneur, tell me some things that have been like the rudest awakenings that you've had.
The biggest thing is that whenever you want to point the finger, it goes here. Mm-hmm. As an entrepreneur, mm-hmm. Nothing is in anyone else's power except our own. And especially when you're a God-fearing person, when you love God and you put God first in everything, you literally can go within and get everything that you need by means of prayer and answers to prayer. Even with the work that I do, I help bridge that gap for people. Sometimes, and this is something that I've learned, Juanica, I know it's a little going off the topic a little bit, but I realize that sometimes people don't realize that they have that connection. And sometimes you're the one to bridge that gap. And there are times where you don't even recognize that you're being used in that capacity. And so you don't always show up for that person as Juanica. You're showing up for that person as a vessel of God. Mm. And so, how sometimes you may have a certain relationship with a person where all that comes out is inspiration. And sometimes there's not like a laughing, funny time. There's more so you inspiring them or using your gift because you're being used as a vessel. So when I realized that God was using me like that, it also made me realize that I can't look at anything outside of me when it comes to what is or isn't going right, or at least what I perceive as going right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some mindset shifts that you had to make to get to this point where you were open to pursuing entrepreneurship full time? Like, who did you have to become to get here?
Oh, that is such a wonderful question. And I'm still in that process because I still do other things in addition to, the services that I offer. I drive Uber and Lyft, so, but I love that I get to set my own schedule. So that helps. But the biggest mind set shift that I had to make is knowing that I can manifest what I need to manifest. And seeing it happen is nothing